Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The president fires the VA chief. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Today, President Obama finally admitting that the Department of Veterans Affairs is pretty much out of control, so he fired General Eric Shinseki.
This morning, I think some of you also heard Rick take a truly remarkable action. In public remarks, he took responsibility for the conduct of those facilities and apologized to his fellow veterans and to the American people. And a few minutes ago, Secretary Shinseki offered me his own resignation. With considerable regret, I accepted.
Now, as you may remember, we predicted that would happen when the story first broke. Shinseki, the general who's in charge of the VA, I've been critical of him in the past. I don't believe he's up to this job. He's got to go, I think, and I think he will. Now, the big picture, as we cited earlier this week, President Obama is having trouble leading. He does not seem to be proactive in problem solving, to say the least. Best example is the economy, which is now contracting after 5.5 years of Obama economic policies. Then there are the scandals one after the other. But the VA situation is a bit different because this angers everybody, Democrats and Republicans alike. You simply cannot treat men and women who defend the nation in a dishonest way, which is what some VA executives did. General Shinseki is a patriot. He served his country honorably, but he was told point blank by a number of Congress people that there were problems in VA hospitals, that vets were not being treated in a timely manner. He was told that, and he didn't do anything. So obviously he had to go. President Obama had no choice. But here's the irony. The president himself knew about the VA's problems, and he did nothing. To be fair, the commander-in-chief can't run the VA, but after being elected, the president apparently lost interest in how the vets were being treated in the federal system. The president's lack of leadership on the VA deal reflects his overall disengagement. Yesterday, there was an interesting back and forth at the State Department.
I would argue the president doesn't give himself enough credit for what he's done around the world, and that's how the secretary feels too.
For what? For what? Yes, exactly. That's
no. I mean, I don't mean like he doesn't deserve credit. I'm talking. What specifically are you talking? He doesn't get enough credit for. That's what I'm saying. For engagement in issues like Iran, what we've done on Ukraine, efforts to dive in and engage around the world.
Russia has still annexed Crimea. I mean, Iran, there's ongoing negotiations, but is that the success here that you're talking?
We're talking about engagement in the world and taking on tough issues that present themselves.
I mean, with all due respect, that's just bilge, B-I-L-G-E, bilge, all right? That's just nonsense. Mr. Obama's foreign policy is dubious, to say the least. Listen to this exchange on CNBC between Home Depot founder Ken Langone and NBC News foreign correspondent Richard Engel.
Name one country with whom we have better relationships with today than we did when he became president of the United States almost 6 years ago. I'm asking you to give me one country where they've gotten better.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find that.
Now, Engel's usually very left-leaning, and certainly NBC News is, and even they cannot point to a foreign policy success. With 2.5 years left in President Obama's second term, there's little anyone can do about his management style, but there's one thing voters can do, and that's show up in November at the voting booth. A statement needs to be made. By the way, White House spokesman Jay Carney also resigned today, but he was under no duress. And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction to the Shinseki firing. With us, Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera. So you didn't predict like I did in the beginning that he was out of there, right?
No, I didn't jump on board that particular bandwagon until last Friday. I thought he would resign over the Memorial Day weekend, feeling that it was fitting that he honor the veterans and the failure to serve the veterans by resigning on Memorial Day weekend. He did not, just a week later.
And this is why I, and not Geraldo Rivera, knew that he was toast. And I'll tell you, this is... Wait, no, this is very personal. Right. This is very personal. As you know, we've raised $25 million for the track chairs, the high-check real chairs, through the Independence Fund.
And I honor you for that.
Okay, thank you. Now, those are vehicles that change lives, because the helpless, the men with no arms and legs, the women who are blind, this and that, now have freedom of movement with these high-check chairs, and their whole psychology changes, everything changes. General Shinseki did not help one iota, did not send a card to Independence Venemous.org. Did not do anything. Nothing. He totally ignored this effort, which was the folks generated. These are the people who gave the $25 million. Not the VA, not the federal government. All right? Shinseki should have honored independencefund.org, should have made a big deal out of it so that more people would come in, and he ignored it. So I'll tell you what. You're right when you say, and I heard on the radio today you say it, that Shinseki is an honorable man and did the country, serve the country well. All right? But you're wrong in the sense that he is a terrible administrator. He should never have had the position. All right? He doesn't understand what's going on.
You tell me when you want me to jump in.
Go ahead.
Thank you. You can't brush over who General Eric Shinseki is. Wounded twice in combat,
right,
decorated in the field. Well, wait a second, Bill. That is why I didn't jump on that particular bandwagon, because this is the kind of man that, under ordinary circumstances,
doesn't mean he's a
in a
good
non-political context, you would be honoring, and we would all be in awe of his service to his country. Now, going to the, to the wheelchair, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know.
I just told you.
I can't be here as a surrogate for General Shinseki. I don't know how much you reached out to him and
we didn't reach out to him at all, but the thing was enormous, and he had to know about it because these guys are in Walter Reed and everywhere else.
On his behalf, I honor that. I think that is exactly the kind of activism our
I'm telling you, he was
veterans care for.
disassociated with the VA's problems. He was a bureaucrat.
Bring this to the national context of what we've witnessed here, the resignation, the bitter resignation, the reluctant resignation of a man who has dropped the ball. I think that, like General David Petraeus, another decorated war hero, this four-star general lost his way when he got to the civilian bureaucracy. I think that's pretty clear.
That's fair. That's fair.
He was done a terrible disservice by dishonorable bureaucrats who have done things that I don't think you've emphasized enough.
Where's Eric Holder?
You have not emphasized enough that there is potential federal fraud here.
I did last night.
Criminal indictments.
I absolutely said it last night.
Indeed.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Let me
Wait.
Sentence.
No. President Obama should have done that today. He should have said, I'm ordering the Attorney General to launch a criminal investigation. I'm not in charge of the country.
The president should have done it.
Yeah, and he didn't.
In front of West Point at the graduating class over the weekend, and he did not.
Because these guys don't really care.
I am not an apologist for the Obama administration.
Well, you're coming off that way.
I am not, because you're not letting me finish the sentence.
No, you're too long-winded. Get to it.
All right. Let me get to the real point here. What I was saying is you will soon see federal grand juries and indictments for people who, why did they create these fake waiting lists?
Because they wanted more money, bonuses.
Because they wanted bonuses.
Right.
Precisely. That is a federal fraud. That will send them to jail. You and I will join.
But there's one more thing.
We will applaud the perp walk when the perp walk happens.
You think Eric Holder's going to do this?
I think he is. He will have to do it. It is incumbent on the Attorney General of the United States.
You know why they won't do it?
And we call on him to do this because it's the right thing to do.
We call on him. Find him. He doesn't do anything. And you know why they're reluctant? Do you know why they're reluctant to do it? Because once they do it, these guys are going to spin and turn on them. That's why.
I think that the real story, because of your venomous feeling about the man in the Oval Office.
No, it's not. He's just disengaged.
This is one of those scandals that's not going up, it's going down. This will penetrate the whole bureaucracy of the Veterans Administration. We'll see just how many of these civil servants have been in this for the bonus.
That venomous line is not fair.
All right. I withdraw the characterization.
The facts are that he's disengaged on an issue.
The president is a bad administrator. The president, that is what Republicans should run on. Here he has had the real story of Benghazi. What's the real story of Benghazi? Is it that the president was watching,
it was chaotic.
Eating Big Macs and watching video games? No. The real story was the administration and the State Department failed to provide adequate security.
And that includes Hillary Clinton, does it not?
Of course it does, yes.
Okay.
So that